Hello, and welcome to New Beginnings Start Today, the podcast for people who want to get closer and grow deeper in their faith in the Lord. I'm your host, Dr. Douglas Keffer, a minister, clinical pastoral counselor here in Roanoke, Virginia, and I have a passion for helping people to live their faith. Today we're going to talk about learning to deal with anger and how you can control yourself, not allowing anger to rule your life. Let's get started. We live in a time when it seems that anger has become a way of life for so many people. Families are being torn apart because they do not know or will not learn how to control their lives and not allow the anger that they feel to rule them. The effect of what is happening or what has happened in their lives that was so wrong can become very overwhelming. King Solomon gives us great insight in how that we can control anger that can arise so easily in our lives when he says, "Whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city." Proverbs 16 and verse 32. Self-control. Being able to control what is going on in our lives. Vitally important. Stop and think about the last time you got angry. What was going on that caused you to get angry, and how did you deal with that anger? This is difficult but necessary because there is just too much anger that we have to deal with from other people that can turn and cause us to get angry too quickly. This can lead to a very, very difficult situation in how we feel, and the breakdown of wonderful relationships that could have been diverted if we would have been more slow to anger. The most common appearance of anger in the Bible is God's anger to sin. The prophet Isaiah gives us a great example of this when he writes, "I will punish the world for its anger and the wicked for their iniquity. I will put an end to the pomp of the arrogant and lay low the pompous pride of the ruthless. Therefore, I will make the heavens tremble, and the earth will be shaken out of its place at the wrath of the Lord of hosts in the day of his fierce anger." Isaiah 13, verses 11 and 13. I want us to believe the Lord of hosts in the day of his fierce anger, that God is only going to tolerate the licentiousness of this society for so long before we see him bringing his judgment upon us. I am truly thankful that he is slow in his anger because there is enough going on in our world today that could cause him to send Jesus back to claim his church at any time. Make no mistake, what seems to be going unchecked in our world as far as the sinful behavior is concerned is not going to go unpunished. All one has to do is turn on the evening or the morning news and see what is happening in our world. We see the effect of war that is raging in different parts of the world, cities being bombed, and countless thousands of people being killed, and devastation to cities and those living there. They're beyond words. We learn of natural catastrophes such as floods, tornadoes, or wildfires that destroy communities and leave many dead and others having to deal with the loss of what was so important to them. The pictures we see are horrific of people walking through the rubble of what once was their home. They are looking for anything that they can recover that is so meaningful and precious to them. This is what Isaiah was talking about when he said, "And the earth will be shaken out of its place." The anger that I see that is going on in the home is a concern that frightens me more than what war and natural catastrophes are causing. Families are being torn apart because they do not know how to deal with issues that come up that causes pride to take hold, and Satan uses that to destroy families at every level. Anger is meant to reveal an injustice, a wrong that needs righting. The Lord's anger shows the unrighteousness of men who, by their unrighteousness, suppress truth. Romans 1 and verse 18. Anger is an appropriate response to suppressed truth, immoral living, and rejection of God's will. It signals something broken that needs fixing. That is why we must address how the family is dealing with anger, beginning with the husband-wife relationship. They must learn how to deal with anger that seemingly comes up so quickly without good resolution. The Apostle Paul tells us how to do this when he writes, "Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, the wrath of God is coming." Colossians, the 3rd chapter, verses 5 and 6. Look at what our earthly nature produces. These are the issues that are plaguing so many spousal relationships today, that is producing the anger that tears these relationships apart. I'm thinking about the many, many couples I have counseled over the years that would tell me about the things their spouses had done that caused them to be so angry that made them not be able to see straight. The wife that is going through her husband's suitcase after he's been on a business trip. She was taking out the dirty clothes to be washed and found a pair of women's pantyhose in the suitcase. She confronted that husband, and as she did, he would not admit to any inappropriate behavior, even after he was shown the evidence of his apparent sexual immorality. His denial raised an anger in the wife that eventually caused her to find other things that the husband was doing because she did not trust anything he told her. She divorced him. And this was her second failed marriage, and both marriages ended because her husbands refused to be honest about their sins. The effect of this kind of behavior of the husband has such horrific consequences for the wife. She must now deal with all of the financial issues and the emotional issues that come along with getting a divorce, such issues as, what lawyer do I get, and how much is that going to cost me? Where am I and the children, if there are children? Where are we going to live? How am I going to pay for the house or pay for rent, for utilities, for groceries? How am I going to make the car payment? How am I going to have health insurance for me and the children? How am I going to have child care for the children after school? to deal with the extended family's attitude and behavior, and being able to concentrate at my job without being overwhelmed with all the responsibilities I now have, and more, and more, and more. So many times it seems that the husband that has caused this kind of trauma because of the sins that he has committed can walk away and not look back. I cannot tell you the number of wives I have counseled in these circumstances they feel that this is exactly what happened to them. Sadly, this is all too true and happens all too often. This is a pattern in a husband's behavior that is causing the destruction of marriages that must be corrected. Husbands getting so angry with their wives and not accepting any responsibility for their wrongdoings. Many husbands get so angry because of what they have done. They get so angry not because of what they have done that is so wrong, but because they got caught in their sins. The way God intends husbands to treat their wives is addressed by the Apostle Paul when he writes, "Husbands, love your wives, and do not be bitter toward them." Colossians 3, verse 19. This is the instruction Paul gives to the husband as he addresses how the Christian household should function. Wives, submit to your own husbands as is fitting in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter toward them. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing to the Lord. Fathers, do not provoke your children, lest they become discouraged. Colossians 3, verses 18 through 21. This is what God's will is for the family that must be adhered to more closely in order for us to deal with all the anger that is destroying the family today. We have to take this admonition seriously so that we can see a change in what uncontrolled anger is doing to the family today. James tells us how that this can be done in a very powerful way. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. James chapter 1, verses 19 through 21. James tells us that you must take note of this. That means that you are going to learn how to recognize when things begin to go wrong in a conversation, that you must control what and how you're going to proceed in that conversation. You must first be quick to listen. If you are angry with the person even before the conversation begins, it makes it very difficult to be ready to listen to what is being said. The chances of having a meaningful conversation is pretty slim. When you are quick to listen, it allows you to be slow to speak. I have heard so many of these conversations, and because of uncontrolled anger, each person, husband, wife, begin to talk over the other person, and things just escalate, and nothing is usually accomplished. James says this can all be prevented if you are slow to become angry. Why do you need to take note of this? James says, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Anger, uncontrolled, does not allow a person to do what is right by God's standards. When this happens, everything goes awry. This is why you must work diligently at asking God to help you to have the right motivation that will allow the following to happen. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth and the evil that is so prevalent, and humbly accept the word planted in you, which can save you. Look at the promise in what James is telling us, that if we obey God's will for how we are going to behave with each other, and not allow the evil that is around us to usurp what it is that we have been taught, we will be saved. The Lord promises that if we can control our anger in every part of our lives and how we interact with our loved ones and others, we will be saved in our spirits eternally and in this present life from the devastation that anger produces. This is the effect of controlling anger before it controls us. When we live this way, by being able to control our anger, we are going to see marriages and families be loving and productive, which the people around us need to see the Lord working in our lives. Thank you for listening to this episode. And I want to invite you to contact me and share how you are having success in controlling the anger that comes up in your everyday living. If you are seeing this on YouTube, please click the subscribe button and the like button. Also click the share button and share it with all your friends. This would be so helpful to me. Tell me about other issues you would like me to address by leaving your comments. And you can email me at drdouglaskeffer@gmail.com. Until next time, God bless each of you.